Everybody kind of give me a thumbs up. Let me know your cameras are ready before we get started. All right, still waiting on one or two more. I got it, Katie. All right, thank y'all for being here. Again, apologize for the room being so hot. Those who've been at my press conference before know that I typically do not read from a press release, and I'm not going to do that today, but we have printed out something that I'm going to kind of use as a guideline. Certain topics and areas I want to make sure that we get fully covered. And let me begin by saying that nothing I say today or any actions or anything that I'll say in the future should be construed to condone or justify any of the actions of Ben Fields at Spring Valley on Monday. He was wrong in some of his actions. It's not what I expect of my deputies, and it's not what I tolerate from any of my deputies, and especially those that are in a school when we're dealing with juveniles. Now, as in any incident, videos are very useful to us. We're glad that the students did take the videos. We welcome people to video us when we do our job, and most of the time it shows that we're doing our job in a correct manner, and then when it shows that we don't do it in the correct manner, then we'll address it. But videos are something that we welcome. Hopefully one day soon we'll have videos on cameras on all of our deputies. We have them on my cars, but we haven't got to the point where we've got them on all of our deputies. Videos are just a snapshot. They don't tell the complete picture. My job and our job is to get the complete picture. And to do that, we have to look at all the videos, we have to take statements, we have to look at everything so we can look at what the full picture of the events are that happens in any kind of incident. Now, this happened 11 a.m. approximately on Monday. We're just slightly over 48 hours, and I'm going to have to say I congratulate my Internal Affairs Division for doing a very quick job and doing a very thorough job in the task that I gave them to do, and that was to investigate this incident as a policy violation, see if Deputy Fields broke any of our policies and procedures that we do. I think somebody asked yesterday, normally in cases like this it takes a long extended time to do it. This one did not need to take very long. The videos helped, the statements we got, our proper policy and procedures that we go by are already there for us to know what they are. So it was not something that needed to take long, and it didn't take long. I think sometimes in these cases and maybe other places they take a little bit unnecessary time. We felt like we needed to do this very quickly because the public needed to know what happened and what our response was going to be to this. Again, our responsibility was to do the internal investigation solely on policy violations. When this was first brought to my attention on Monday, even though I was out of town at a law enforcement conference in Chicago, we took action very quickly. Deputy Fields was placed on suspension without pay. He has been on that until today. I also immediately contacted the FBI and asked them to do the criminal investigation on this. The first was a phone call, and then it was followed up by a written request. I felt like that the FBI was the only agency that needed to be investigating this, that did not want anybody to come up with any type of reason to say that this was not properly investigated and handled by authorities that need to be handled. The FBI is one of the most trusted and respected law enforcement agencies in this state and probably in the world, and that's why I turned to them and asked them to conduct a full and thorough investigation to see if there was any criminal violations, and the FBI accepted that. I also contacted the U.S. Attorney's Office and asked them to be part of that, and that the Justice Department be part of looking into these actions also. Our U.S. Attorney William Nettles agreed to that, and so the FBI and Civil Rights Division has initiated an investigation. It was started yesterday. They've already have it full swing. We're fully cooperating with them to make sure that they have everything that they need. We took statements from the teacher and the administrator that was present. This incident started with a very disruptive student in a class. The student was not allowing the teacher to teach and was not allowing the students to learn. She was very disruptive, she was very disrespectful, and she started this whole instance with her actions. She refused to lead the class as directed by the teacher. She refused to follow his instructions. He called for assistance from the school administrator. The school administrator got there. He was African American, and he attempted to get her to lead the class also. She refused his instructions, was continually disrespectful to him. All the while the students are still in the class. They're supposed to be there learning. Their education was put on hold while this disruptive student had to be dealt with. At that point, School Resource Officer Ben Fields was called. The situation was explained to him. He attempted to get the student to leave. He was then asked to remove her from the class. And at that point, I think we've seen the various videos. I will note that the teacher and the school administrator in their statements both fully support the actions of Ben Fields. They said that he acted appropriately, that he didn't use excessive force, and he did what was necessary. And that came from both of them who were present when this happened. The third video from another student who also supports Officer Fields actually shows the student, female student, striking Ben Fields and her resisting when he tried to get her from her chair. Once he put her hands on her, he was allowed to do that. He placed her under arrest. He verbally told her that he was under arrest. He attempted to use force to make the arrest. I do not feel that the proper procedures was used at that point, and that's what's caused me my heartburn and what my issues with this. The maneuver that he used was not based on the training or acceptable. Our training unit looked at it, they examined it. I have a written report from them which I'll share with all of you, which goes into details on the force continuum, how we train our officers, and what we expect of them in circumstances like this. Their recommendation to me was that Deputy Fields did not follow proper training, did not follow proper procedure when he threw the student across the room. From the very beginning, that's what's caused me to be upset when I first saw that video, and continues to upset me when I see that video, is the fact that he picked the student up and he threw the student across the room. That is not a proper technique and should not be used in law enforcement. And based on that, that is a violation of our policy. And approximately 20 minutes ago, School Resource Officer Ben Fields was terminated from the Richland County Sheriff's Department. We have some 87 school resource officers throughout the schools in Richland County. Every day these deputies do a fantastic job. They work very closely with the students, the faculty, and the parents, and they develop a great relationship. Monday's actions by Deputy Fields was not typical of the job that I expect them to do, parents expect them to do, students expect them to do, and the community expect them to do. By and large, we have great SROs. We get COPS grants. We get COPS grants to assist us in putting school resource officers in our schools. As a requirement of the COPS grant, we recently had an investigative team come down and just do a routine examination of our school resource officer program. They went to various schools to look at the number of incarcerations that we have, the number of discipline actions that are taken at our schools, the activities of our SROs. One of the schools they went and they did a close examination of was Spring Valley High School. And they talked to School Resource Officer Deputy Ben Fields, and they gave Spring Valley very high remarks for their efforts in reducing the number of arrests in that school. Their examinations to make sure that there's no civil rights violations with our school resource officers and the school district. That was just recently conducted. My responsibility now is to continue to build and maintain the relationship that the Sheriff's Department has with the community. This is accomplished by doing many things. The first one is taking responsibility for officers when they do something wrong. I've built my reputation on standing up for our deputies when they are right, and also standing up here and saying and admitting that when our deputies do wrong. And Deputy Ben Fields did wrong this past Monday. So we're taking that responsibility for that. We need to act swiftly and with transparency. That's what we've tried to do. We also want to publicly address the situation and request an independent investigation. And we have done all those things. I feel like we have moved very quickly on this. We've done the right thing in our actions in terminating him. We're doing the right thing and continuing to build that relationship that we have with the community. I've contacted various elected officials from federal, state, and local and discussed that with them. Discussed it with our religious community. We have a group of pastors that are here with us now that I've been in close contact with. Our Citizens Advisory Council, we have those members here. For those who are not familiar with us at Richland County, we're the only agency in the state of South Carolina that has a Citizens Advisory Council. These are individuals from our community that come in and they review everything that we do at our Sheriff's Department, our policies, our procedures, our disciplinary actions, our terminations. They have full access to everything that we do. They help us have transparency. They help us have the voice of the community in everything that we do at this Sheriff's Department. They are here now. This case will be presented to them and they'll review it. But we didn't have time to call an emergency meeting and present it to them first. I felt like we needed to do what we're doing right now, and it needed to be done very quickly, but I've invited them to be here. The chairman's here, and the majority of their members are here also. You know, our schools are schools for education. SROs are part of that process. And when a classroom is disrupted by a student, that disrupts the education process. And the student